Okay, so my name is Kirk Havens, retired Master Sergeant, U.S. Army Special Forces. I served for about 14 years. I served beginning in 2001, starting off in the U.S. Army Infantry before moving over to U.S. Army Special Forces around 2003 after participating in the invasion of Iraq. So I would say that the way that Army Special Forces differs from what I would call the conventional military is that you have to be both strong in mind and body, and it requires somebody that has a high aptitude to be able to absorb a lot of ambiguity and make decisions without a lot of information. You have to be able to adapt to different scenarios, different cultures, and be able to plan on the fly, but be a very strategic thinker at the same time, and oftentimes make decisions that are very impactful that may have dire results that you don't necessarily have the support for while you're out on these operations. Yeah, so becoming a Green Beret is obviously a big deal, and graduating from that training, the culmination of about 2 years worth of work was an incredible experience and very fulfilling. I think probably the most honorable thing, or the greatest thing, is to be able to lead other folks and get them to follow you and believe in what you were telling them, and believe in what you've trained them on, and lead them into situations where they were willing to lay their life down for you and for the folks to the left and the right. And overall, I think that's probably the biggest honor that I had. Especially scary. Obviously, being injured is a scary experience. Spending a lot of time in the hospital, and a lot of time being uncertain of what's going to happen. That's a scary thing. But I think that in terms of recovering from that, you really start to fall back on a lot of the training that you experienced while you're serving in the military, and you tend to find out that helps you be resilient and overcome a lot of the fear that you have in the moment. I think that I'm fortunate enough where to have grown up and served in an era where military service is really genuinely appreciated by people. I know that in years past that hasn't always been the case, so I feel very fortunate for that. And I think that I don't know that there's necessarily anything that I would change from the public's perception. I do have a part of me that feels that there are a lot of folks that feel they have some misconceptions in general about veterans, and I think that getting all of those misconceptions out on the table and dealing with them in a more public way would be the most effective way to kind of overcome people's perception in terms of how they feel about veterans and veterans issues. So first of all, very good question. I think that if I'm being true to myself, I think that is their right, that they have a choice, they can make that choice, and then that's what they're choosing to do. From an analytical standpoint, I think that there's a bit of a conflation of issues, and I think that I would actually refer to Nate Boyer. He's also a Green Beret, also played in the NFL, and he recently wrote a really nice article that was really kind of a call to action to both the NFL and to the United States government, to where we can both come together and really set up a course for change that's positive instead of everything that you're seeing that's negative right now. And I think that while it's people's choices, we shouldn't conflate issues, and we should confront the issues at hand the way that they are. Recommendations, military is definitely a very good opportunity, and the military is just like anything else, where it's what you make of it, right? And I would encourage anybody that's considering to join the military that they should do their homework exactly on what they're getting themselves into, and understand what's going to be required of them. And the nature of the military, some of that is somewhat restrictive, especially living in an area where the military presence isn't that great. there's just not a lot of military bases nearby. That access to that information becomes more and more difficult. But now with the advent of social media and the way things are, just about anybody can go to YouTube and Google a job that they want to do and figure out a little bit about that. So they should take that into consideration when they're planning. But hands down, the military provides a lot of opportunity for people that are willing to put in the effort. And I think, generally speaking, the perception of folks that go into the military has changed greatly compared to even when I was first joining. It used to be thought of as a last resort, and now it's actually become very highly competitive, and it's actually difficult to get into. That's a difficult question to answer. I don't know that necessarily that my patriotism ever really changed. I think my appreciation for being an American changed, and I think that's largely different, at least in my perspective. I think that once you're exposed to other governments, other ways of life, other cultures, and you see some of the advantages that you have as an American, some of the opportunities that you have, you become extremely grateful to be able to grow up as an American. And that in turn, maybe makes you more patriotic, but I think in my case it really solidified the beliefs that I had going into my military service.